In the final 3 seconds before a human being steps forever into the dark, the mind does something no scientist has ever fully explained. It forgets 90% of a lifetime in a single breath, and remembers one thing so sharply that it burns the air itself. And tonight, as a witness to the confessions people whispered when the world had almost lost them, I'll share 5 final statements that refuse to die, 5 truths that still follow me like shadows. Th. Long, patient likes. Silence hides thunder, and these last words, they're storms waiting to strike. In every courtroom, every cell, every dying room, truth hangs in the air like dust suspended in a beam of light. Some truths land softly, others land like broken glass. These 5 final statements, spoken at the edge of life, have followed investigators, families, and even me for years, because once you hear a person's last words, you carry them forever. Tonight, we open the door to those echoes. The challenge with truth is simple: we want it until it hurts. Some truths unravel the stories we tell ourselves. Some reveal how fragile the human mind truly is. Some expose how one choice, one moment, can change a lifetime. And in true crime, final statements are more than last words. They are evidence. They are confessions. They are warnings. They are regret wrapped in breath. As someone who has stood over hospital beds, inside interrogation rooms, beside victims, suspects, and the families they left behind, I've learned that a person's last sentence often tells you everything about who they truly were, or what they were afraid to admit. And as we break down these 5 statements, you'll see what I've seen: that humans don't fear death half as much as they fear dying with the truth still inside them. We begin with 5 real final statements, each one a doorway into a case that refused to stay silent. First final statement: tell my mother she was right. I was the reporting officer that night, though the truth is, I felt more like a ghost passing through someone else's tragedy. He arrived at the trauma bay bleeding from the abdomen, a wound sharp enough to convince even the strongest man that the clock was running out. He wasn't supposed to speak. The medical team said his lungs were collapsing. But guilt can carve a path through pain. He looked at me, eyes foggy and distant, and whispered, tell my mother she was right. That line sounds simple until you understand the psychology behind it. Humans in their final moments often experience cognitive crystallization, a state where the mind compresses years of regret into a single sentence. This is why dying people often speak in metaphors or confessions. The brain is racing to unburden itself. And for him, the burden was heavy. He had joined a group he thought were friends, boys who offered him belonging, protection, quick money. But belonging without wisdom is a sweet poison. His mother warned him, these boys will put you in a grave before they put you on your feet. He thought she was exaggerating. He thought love was fear dressed in warnings. He learned the truth the hard way. Detectives revealed that the friends he trusted had set him up in a drug deal gone wrong. They left him behind to take the fall. He died believing they ran to save themselves. He died knowing his mother's fear had always been prophecy. At the hospital, when I told her his message, she didn't scream. She simply nodded and whispered, I knew. Some truths don't heal families. They bruise them in slow motion. If you're still watching, stay with me. The next final statement shook even the detectives who thought they'd seen everything. Like, comment, and subscribe, not just for more stories, but to help these cases carry the lessons they were meant to teach. The second final statement. She wasn't supposed to be home. Rain poured that night like the sky was trying to wash something off the earth. The suspect sat across from me, soaked, shivering, not from the cold, but from the moment he couldn't undo. He kept muttering it over and over, as if repeating it would rewrite time. She wasn't supposed to be home. People caught in spontaneous crimes often cling to a single idea: it wasn't supposed to happen. This is called cognitive dissonance collapse. The mind trying to reconcile intention with consequence. In his mind, he wasn't a monster. He was a desperate young man who made a desperate decision. He broke into a house at 5:43 p.m. believing the family wouldn't return until 7. But the dawn arrived early, groceries in hand, humming a song she never finished. She recognized him. They grew up in the same neighborhood. That recognition triggered his panic, and panic is a terrible decision maker. In his interview he said, I didn't mean to hurt her. I just didn't want her to see me. But intention doesn't erase outcome, and recognition, something harmless, something innocent, became the spark that turned a petty break-in into a homicide. Her family later revealed she always worried about him. She said he was spiraling. She once told her mother, I hope someone reaches in before life does. Life reached in, and it wasn't gentle. Some last statements haunt because they reveal accidents aren't always accidents. Sometimes they're collisions of choices meeting fate at the wrong second. Before we go deeper, let me ask you, if someone's final words revealed a truth you weren't ready for, would you want to hear it? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like this video to help more people learn from these cases. And turn on notifications, because the next 3 stories dig into human psychology in ways most channels don't explore. Final statement number 3. You're arresting a wrong monster. I was in the interrogation room the night he spoke. The air was cold, sterile, and too quiet, like it was waiting for something it already knew. He sat calmly in the metal chair, hands cuffed, his eyes scanning every face like he owned every shadow in the room. The detectives had already connected him to 2 murders. The evidence irrefutable. The confession complete, and yet, when asked if there was anything more to say, he leaned back, smiled faintly, and whispered, "You're arresting a wrong monster." There was a pause. A silence so thick it pressed against the walls. Some of the officers froze. Some laughed nervously. Some of us just stared, realizing in that moment that the truth they believed in was incomplete. This was not deflection, not bravado. It was a revelation. This is a classic example of cognitive dominance in predatory offenders. Some criminals want control, even when captured. Some need to ensure that fear survives even after they lose freedom. Some simply speak truth that investigators aren't ready to handle. Months later, detectives discovered the horrifying confirmation. Another series of killings had occurred while he was in custody, following an eerily similar pattern, but executed with greater precision. Not him. Someone else. Someone who had observed him, perhaps learned from him, or merely shared a similar pathology. This is why his final words are so haunting. They were both a confession and a warning, a riddle left dangling in the minds of law enforcement. Psychologically, it highlights a key concept. Humans crave closure, but the truth doesn't always comply. Sometimes, what's spoken last is not to absolve the speaker, but to fracture the listener. I watched him speak those words like a scholar explaining a theorem. Not guilt, not fear, not desperation, just certainty. "You're arresting the wrong monster," he repeated softly, almost like he was reading from an invisible script written decades ago. And the room shifted. Not physically, emotionally. Every officer, every investigator, every witness, even Neve felt it. The sense of unfinished justice, hanging like smoke in a sealed chamber. Even now, when I recount the case to trainees or students of criminal psychology, I pause at that line. Because it isn't just chilling. It's instructive. It teaches the living about shadows that never leave, even when you think the room is empty. By this point, the room had emptied of adrenaline, but not tension. The air smelled faintly of coffee and sweat. Every person present understood that words have a weight far beyond the body that utters them. And that brings us to statement 4, a statement not spoken by a criminal, but by a victim. A victim whose last words were a confession of regret, a plea, and a revelation all in one breath. Her statement teaches us another truth. Sometimes, the dying speak not to absolve themselves, but to shield those they love. Final statement number 4. I should have told you earlier. I'm sorry. I stood at the edge of her hospital bed that night. The fluorescent lights flickered intermittently, casting shadows that seemed to lean closer as she spoke. Her hands were frail, fingers curling around her sister's palm with the desperation of someone trying to hold time itself. Her voice was almost inaudible. I should have told you earlier. I'm sorry. I paused. I had heard many confessions, last words of criminals, final pleas of victims. But this was raw, intimate, and educational in its horror. Weeks before her death, she had been threatened. And seen, subtle, terrifying. No bruises, no scars. Yet her intuition screamed danger. She did not tell her sister or friends. She hid the threat to protect them. But the danger escalated. And in the end, her silence was no shield. Her final words compressed psychological insight, education, and morality. Regret is an unmovable weight. Silence in the face of threat doesn't prevent harm. Confession can be both an apology and a lesson. Her words echo the principle that inaction can be as consequential as action. I leaned in closer to hear her last whisper. Every word trembled, yet carried a weight that seemed to stretch across time. Tell them, tell the ones they love, don't hide it. Don't wait for danger to show its face fully, because then it's too late. Even the detectives standing in the room understood these were not just words of grief. They were a lesson in foresight, courage, and the human cost of secrecy. Before we reach the most chilling and final statement, I want to ask, if you had one chance to speak your truth before the world could no longer hear, what would you say? Comment below. Share this video with someone who needs to understand the weight of last words. And subscribe to our channel, because what comes next is the kind of statement that has haunted me personally, even after decades in the field. Final statement number 5. I hope you never find out why I did it. I will never forget the day I witnessed his last words. It was inside a cold execution chamber. Sterile, silent, almost reverent. He lay flat on the gurney, hands cuffed, eyes staring at the ceiling like he was gazing into a sky only he could see. Reporters were pressed against glass, officials hovered nearby, and I was simply a witness. A witness to the final breath of someone who carried a truth he would never reveal. Then he spoke, soft but deliberate. I hope you never find out why I did it. The statement itself is deceptively simple, yet it immediately fills the mind with more questions than answers. Why? What drove him? Could anyone have predicted this? And the haunting reality at everyone in the room, some truths are meant to vanish with the person who holds them. After his death, investigators combed through his home, belongings, and writings. What they discovered was chilling. Journals filled with cryptic notes and diagrams, almost obsessive patterns linking dates, locations, and events that no one could easily interpret. No straightforward motive. No confessions beyond his final words. Psychologically, this exemplifies the enigmatic criminal mind. The final statement becomes a shield protecting the person even in death. It leaves law enforcement, families, and historians struggling with incomplete narratives. It forces society to confront the unsettling idea that some motives are unknowable. For educators, psychologists, and true crime enthusiasts, this is a lesson in uncertainty, cognitive psychology, and human complexity. I remember standing just outside the chamber after the procedure. The air felt thicker, heavier, as if his last words had lingered in the room, refusing to dissipate. It was not fear I felt, not relief, but awe. A terrible, the power of a statement that carries the weight of an entire life. Even years later, I recount his words exactly as they were said. They are a stark reminder that not all truths are meant for the living. The most haunting thing, he didn't sound cruel. He didn't sound arrogant. He sounded at peace. And that peace carried a lesson. Some mysteries leave the living with the burden, and the dead with the relief. Tell my mother, she was right. The weight of ignored warnings, and the inevitability of consequences. She wasn't supposed to be home. How unintended moments collide with fate. You're arresting the wrong monster, the unsettling presence of hidden evil. I should have told you earlier. I'm sorry. The human cost of silence and delayed truth. I hope you never find out why I did it, the enigma that refuses closure. Each statement teaches us about life, death, morality, and the shadows that dwell in the human mind. Now, I want you to pause and reflect. Which statement unsettled you the most? Would you speak your truth if it was your last moment? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's discuss what these statements teach us about life decisions and consequences. Also, check out our other video for disturbing things caught by solo night guards, for more cases that explore the darkness hiding in plain sight. In the end, the final words of a human being are not just echoes. They are the shadows we carry, the storms we try to outrun, and the truths that refuse to sleep. And for those who listen carefully, the whispers never leave. This is True Crime Uncovered, and some truths linger forever.